Disney Plus brings movies, shows, nostalgia, and joy right to your screen. This podcast brings reactions, recaps, discussions, and interviews right to your mouse ears. Scott Murray, Regina Davis, and Nathan Chick are here to enhance your Disney Plus experience and take your Disney fandom to a new level. Welcome to the Disney Plus Streamcast.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Disney Plus Streamcast. I'm Scott Murray and I'm here with Regina Davis.
Hello, hello. Since the launch of Disney Plus, most of our conversations have centered around new shows and movies, but today we're going old school.
That's right. Our featured discussion is all about the animated Spider-Woman series, which debuted in 1979 on ABC.
But we felt it wasn't enough to have us talk about it. That's why the voice of Spider-Woman will also be here. Joan Van Ark is our special guest.
And that's awesome. We can't wait for that. But before we get to our other Disney Plus programming talk, it's time for News with Nathan.
Hi, spider friends. How's it going out there?
So good. Hey, Nathan.
That's what we should so do for the rest of this half. How many spider references? How many things can you attach spider to?
I wrote a
this
list.
Discussion.
I've got it. Thundering tarantulas. I'm all over that.
Yes.
It's me, your friendly neighborhood news slinger. See what I did there?
Very nice start.
And we're just going to go over some things that are moving and shaking in the world of Disney and Marvel at the moment. So we'll start by talking about Epcot at Walt Disney World. It's getting a major renovation in the next few years. You can expect to see a new roller coaster based on Ratatouille. It's a trackless roller coaster based in the France Pavilion. There's also going to be a Moana area, a Mary Poppins attraction in merry old England, and a digital city called the Play Pavilion. Not to mention the new Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster that's going to open in 2021. There's all sorts of bits and pieces that they're going to do with that, such as new movies, new restaurants. You know, they theme these things so well to give you that kind of, I don't want to say that stereotypical slice of life. It's almost like in Technicolor, I guess, the way everything's blown up so big. But you can look forward to that. There's always another reason to visit Disney. What could have been the trip of a lifetime has to be the trip every year now, because otherwise you're just going to miss so much really, really cool stuff.
You know, it's interesting about that, how they're adding so many more things to Epcot now that are a little more ride themed. You know, they're not getting too far away from, you know, the experience of learning about other cultures and kind of the educational aspects of it. But I think this is a really good idea because I think it'll help appeal a little more to younger kids, because that's me. I mean, as a child, when my parents took me to Disney for the first time, and we just absolutely loved what used to be MGM Studios, now Hollywood Studios, and then Magic Kingdom. And then when we went to Epcot, and not so much, because for the most part, it's walking around, watching maybe a few movies. I mean, yeah, you had the cool little boat ride through Mexico and stuff like that, but it's basically walking around stuff and shopping and things like that. Now, when they had things like Cranium Command, that definitely made it a lot more fun when it was around. But I just remember not liking it so much as a kid, loving it as an adult, but I think adding these things will make it more fun for kids.
It does seem like they're making it a lot more well-rounded.
Certainly, if you go on YouTube at the moment, despite the initial teething problems that Rise of Resistance had, they've had a couple of setbacks, mechanical setbacks in the first couple of days of operation. You can see lots of point of view videos on there from people who have been invited to take part in the opening of that. You know, you have these carts being towed by these or driven by these R4 droids around inside a Star Destroyer for some of that. And it looks absolutely amazing. I think they have a spoiler warning on some of those videos, and I think some of them have been edited pretty heavily to avoid too many of the really big ooh moments. But you'll certainly see a little bit of what all that's about on YouTube at the moment. Those videos are everywhere, and that ride looks so good. I just can't wait to go on that.
Another trackless roller coaster, too.
Interesting.
We need a Jeff Goldblum investigation into that.
Yes. One of these trackless systems. How do you ride without a track?
Trackless.
Yes.
Then he's going to go to Trackless Roller Coaster Con.
In other Disney news, Disney 9.9 billion for box office receipts for the year. Rise of Skywalker isn't even out yet, so we think whenever that one comes out, why, shivering spider teeth, it's going to take the 10 billion spot, and that's a record. It's a record already, but no studio has ever done 10 million at the box office, so that's insane. And that's not even counting the Fox movies as well. But while we're talking about upcoming movies, Kevin Feige was at Comic-Con Experience in Sao Paulo this weekend, and he had a Marvel panel there, and not only did he get a standing ovation and people just were loving everything he was laying down, he went and revealed a few stills from WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. He had some raw footage that he revealed from the Eternals. It was a real strict embargo on that, but people have been saying how cool it looks, despite not having maybe the reputation as some of those like top tier Marvel heroes. But the nugget that I really, really liked, that he it was sort of left out by a lot of outlets because they were focusing on the footage, but he said the MCU is all interconnected, but we really focus on one movie at a time. We're going to make the best Black Widow movie we possibly can make, the best Eternals movie we can make, the best Shang-Chi, the best Doctor Strange, Thor, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and keep evolving their stories. Then yes, it is always fun to see them come together in a master plan, which is, I promise you, well underway. And vibrating venom blasts, that just got me all in a tizzy.
What does that mean? Oh, man. That is so exciting. And I was already pumped with the Eternals just because I love them. And then I saw the Black Widow trailer that, came out just a little while back. And then hearing him talk about it and how enthusiastic he is about the project, I'm so hyped for that movie. A lot came out of that panel. That was a great panel for him.
In a very short span of time.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think one of the main things that I think is important for Disney Plus viewers to recognize is I believe he said that the MCU is going to go back and forth between Disney Plus and the movies, which means, if you're somebody who wants to be completely caught up in what's happening, I mean, it sounds to me like you're going to have to watch the stuff on Disney Plus to fully be aware of what's happening at the movies from this point on. And I'm glad he pointed that out, because that's something I've been wondering ever since they started talking about Marvel characters doing TV shows. I thought, okay, well, we know that we're going to find out where Loki went after he stole the Tesseract. That means that could have future implications. All this stuff is. But, sometimes they're able to do things on TV that don't necessarily mean you have to know it when you go to the theater, just like, there's lots of books that Star Wars puts before each movie. And if you read them, you're just a little more aware of things that just has a deeper meaning to you, but it doesn't ruin the film if you haven't read it. But it sounds to me like you're going to want to watch the shows. And if you're going to go to continue to see the movies, if you really want to know everything that's going on. And to that, I mean, what was the 20... I'm looking at Jeremy Conrad's Twitter, because he covers a lot of Marvel stuff. If you don't follow him at Manabyte, I highly recommend it, because he was doing a play-by-play of this thing as it was taking place. He wrote, 2021 is looking like this: Shang-Chi, WandaVision, Loki, Doctor Strange, What If, Spider-Man 3, Hawkeye, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Thor.
Oh.
So that is going to be one heck of a year. We're going to be busy that year.
Yeah, we are.
Spiraling space spiders. That's all I have for you this week, but what a way to finish.
Imagine, just how great it is now to have social media and internet. That's one of the good things about social media. Sometimes it's hard to find good things about social media, but, imagine how long it might have taken for us to know all that had we not had instant access to what all the announcements were as they were taking place at that convention.
Well, one of the things I loved about that was the fact that he did that in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And I think, especially being here in the US and even back in, the UK, we had our own Marvel imprint for a bit. You don't always get the idea that these things are truly global, but to see the reaction that he had down there, I think it was on Variety, they posted some of the footage of the ovation and the way people were going. They were just like rabid, like wanting to see him and hear him. It's so great to know that we really are part of a global community. It's not just an American thing. It's not just a Western thing. It's everyone. We love these guys. We love these heroes. We love these stories and what they mean to us. And it's just really, really affirming.
Up next, we'll catch up on what we've been watching on Disney Plus, and Joan Van Ark will join us to discuss the Spider-Woman animated series.
That's next on the Disney Plus Streamcast.
If you're a Disney Plus fan and you're in the holiday spirit, you won't want to miss next week's show. It's all dedicated to some of the Christmas programming on Disney Plus. Our featured discussion will be about Noel.
When we have the show come out next week, it'll be the 18th of December. And you know what that means? Not only are we just a few days away from Christmas, the very next day I'm planning to see Star Wars. That's how close Star Wars is. Despite how fast things are going, I know we're all finding some time to watch some things on Disney Plus. I've watched a few things in the last week. I'm pretty sure we all watched the latest episode of The Mandalorian. I know we're trying to be quick here so we can get to our conversation with Joan, so I'll just make a few quick observations about the recent episode of The Mandalorian. I thought, on the one hand, it was really interesting that as kind of jittery he was about landing in Mos Eisley, he left the door open on his ship in the hangar. And left the child in there. That struck me very, very weird. I'd love to hear an explanation of that. And it can't be, well, we needed to create a conflict, so we left the door open. That's not good enough. So I'd like to know what the thinking behind that was. Outside of that, I thought it was interesting, after all the years of basically seeing the Tusken Raiders just beat people or kill people, that there was a moment in this where the Mandalorian was actually just hanging out, talking and negotiating with them. I thought it was ironic that after seeing episode 4, when you walk into the Mos Eisley Cantina, one of the first things you hear come from the bartender is no droids in here. And then when you walk in this time period, there's not only droids there, but there's one behind the counter. So how times change. And of course, the thing that everybody's talking about is who's walking up to Ming-Na Wen's character at the very end.
Episodes that end like that just give me such crushing anxiety because I need to know what's going on. What stood out to me about this episode, other than the Tusken Raiders, because I noticed that also, I thought that was really, really interesting, was actually, I was really impressed with Amy Sedaris playing Peli Motto. I've never been a huge Amy Sedaris fan, really. I don't dislike her, but I just loved how completely charmed she was by Baby Yoda and Mando. I thought it was just a really interesting, sort of unexpected cameo. And so I think it's sort of fun that we're seeing that kind of thing in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think the guest stars were really good this week. Really enjoyed Amy Sedaris. Ming-Na, disappointed whenever she bit it with the blaster. Or did she? You know?
Or did she?
Yeah, I sincerely hope not. It'd be a shame to waste her. I would watch her beat people up and lay waste to rebel scum and, stormtroopers alike for hours. She's my favorite part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. next to Coulson. So, yeah, more of that. And pit droids. Pit droids are great. I don't get tired of seeing them ever. That's one thing George did right. He got the droids. I think they were spot on with the Roger and all the rest of it. That was just fun to me. I dug it. So to see those guys clanking about, that was cool.
I like the pit droids, too, a lot. And what you said about the droids that came from the prequel trilogy, I think is also astute as well. Because, even some of the haters of the prequel trilogy, they used to kind of mock the fact that the battle droids were so stupid, even though in some ways they kind of needed to be. Hence was the reason why the Emperor started saying, all right, I need to start putting real people in these things. But gosh, when you watch the Clone Wars and even some of the video games, and especially some of the Lego things, just the funny crap that the droids say is really some of the best parts of it anytime the battle droids show up. I mean, the times where I play Battlefront, I laugh every single time when you're on the battle droid team and the clone troopers are blasting their tanks, and one of the droids goes, wow, those blasters really work.
No, whenever we revisit that trilogy, I've got to be honest, I do think, despite the hate they had originally, like you said, they've aged so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A
couple of other things I got to see on Disney this week. I did see One Day at Disney, although what I thought was kind of unique about the thing was after I watched the entire 1 hour or 1 hour plus of all these different people, I then saw later that there was another grouping that looked like it was beginning to separate them out. I think I would have liked it to have been that way. In fact, when I first heard about the series, I thought that's what it was going to be, was an individual spotlight. So when I clicked on the one that was an hour long and featured 6 or 7 people, it felt a little long. I felt like I, would have liked to have met 3 and kind of let that sink in and come back and meet some more. But having said that, it was really cool, all the different people ranging from the people behind the scenes that are making things work to the guy who, loves driving the train every day, and his history and how he got that job and what it means to him to interact with people every day and bring smiles to the faces of people that are getting on the train at Disney every day. So I enjoyed that, but I wish I might have discovered the version of it where it's being broken up individually, because the first one that's there now is the guy that was the animator. The first one they showed, and he was fascinating too.
Oh, Eric Goldberg, he was superb. That demo reel he did for the Robin Williams Genie was fantastic. Such a fan of, what a way to start the show. It didn't maintain my interest as long as I wish it did. It started off really, really well for me, and then it didn't. But kind of like my enthusiasm petered. But man, such a fan of Eric Goldberg. Great animator. So it was lovely to see him behind the scenes and get some recognition. That was great.
I watched one of them, and I thought it was really, really cool. I wasn't sure, because I saw whenever we were talking about all the shows that were going to be coming up, there was going to be a lot of different behind the scenes style shows, and I wasn't 100% sure how many of them I actually needed, because I thought, a few of these are going to be great, but then I'll be sort of done with those and I'll just sort of go back to watching other things on Disney Plus. But so far, each of these have been informative enough and interesting enough and behind the scenes enough that each of the ones I watch gives me enough of a new perspective on the behind the scenes process that I feel like I'm not wasting any time. I'm really enthusiastic about watching them. So the more the merrier.
If I may, though, I kind of already feel that if you work for Disney in a park, or if you work for Disney in creative, you are probably just loving your job. You probably have one of the best jobs. Mm-hmm. What I would wonder, though, does everybody else who's not working around a park or in the creative really feel that way? Do they really feel as satisfied? And I just would, and again, not to say that, I'm cynical about these things, but quite genuinely, when it comes to Disney, when it comes to ABC and all that stuff, I would like to see what the little people do, like me, and see what their job satisfaction is and what they really love about the job, and see if Disney's kind of all it's cracked up to be. Arguably not something you'd expect to see on Disney Plus, but the Imagineering story already treats Disney with such reverence, but does it well and it's credible. So when I see things like this, sometimes I feel like it's a little bit of a puff piece. Like, I don't need Robin Roberts to tell me how great her job is. I already know it's great.
Disney propaganda.
No, I agree. I think you would definitely find people that bring a similar passion to their job. I had an opportunity not long ago to interview Lee Cockerell, who was basically in charge of the entire resort, the parks, the people, the whole bit for several years. There's a level of dedication that has to be there, along with the passion for doing what you're doing. He talked a lot about hiring well, and I think that's one of the keys to why so many of the stories you hear involves people ranging from someone who gets to do something as deep as creating characters or getting to draw Mickey Mouse to the person who's driving the train. I got a chance to watch the last couple of Forky Asks a Question. I actually really liked both of them. The one about love was kind of amusing, especially with the different variations of how they changed. What was it? It was Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, and Carol Burnett were all involved, and they kind of did fun things with their names. The other thing I noticed, too, was the clock, who says very little. I think he grunts or something, and that voice is Alan Oppenheimer. And if you don't know who Alan Oppenheimer is, he's the voice of Falkor in the Neverending Story and the voice of Skeletor in the animated Masters of the Universe series.
I didn't realize.
Yeah. So,
oh my god.
Those were fun. I also watched the second Pixar in Real Life.
Oh no. No.
I so want to like this show, but this one just kind of felt a little bit mailed in. When they said it was going to be, I can't remember the octopus's name from the second one. The octopus and Dory were going to surprise people at the park. I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be something like, when you're doing the Nemo ride at Disney World, and you literally see all the characters in the water, animated in the water with the real sea life. I thought it was going to be something like that. The kids are going to be looking at the sea life and, oh, here comes Nemo or here comes Dory. When in actuality, they put octopus legs on a stroller. They put Dory in a sippy cup, and then they just made it look like the octopus was getting away on the stroller and watched how people reacted. I mean, I hate to be critical because I think there are other things that have potential. But this is just one of those things where it might have been a good idea to leave it on the cutting room floor. I had my issues with the first one. I still think had some validity to show, whereas this one I'm not so sure. And that's pretty much what I got to watch this week.
So other than the One Day at Disney short that I watched, I went back and rewatched Pocahontas, which I had not done in a very long time. I loved it just as much as I did when I was younger. That's one that I had yet to ever really rewatch as an adult. I started to rewatch Dinosaurs, and then I stopped for about 20 minutes because I remembered how utterly heartbreaking it is. And so since then, I audibled into binging Gargoyles instead.
Ooh.
And good time, boys. That show is so good.
Now, that's a show that needs its own episode. That needs a retrospective all by itself because it really is top class.
Dude, I could not agree more. Scott, can we?
Sure, because I'll have to watch it.
Yay!
You've
never
seen
it at all? This is going to be good.
You'll come for the trek, but then you'll stay for the story. It's really great. It really is.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I watched.
I binged all the Spider-Woman as much as I could. I had to watch that Forky Asks a Question with Rex again because it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did watch the follow-up, which, again, worth watching just for the cast. Meleficent Brooks and Cheryl Burnett. I mean, it was just really, really good. And then when Bitey White comes out at the end, that was just the pièce de résistance.
Yes.
It was so good. So I love that they're having so much fun with that. Tony Hale's doing a great job with that one. And yeah, I watched the One Day at Disney thing.
Well, I'm glad you two got a chance to watch some Spider-Woman, especially considering our topic today. I have to say, I've had a chance to watch some of it. I didn't get to see as much of it I wanted to this week, but I definitely was able to see enough of it to indulge in it for our conversation with Joan Van Ark today. And, as someone who somehow missed that show because I was around in 1979, 1980. One of the things that I really kind of like about it is it does have a very strong nostalgic effect if you watch the show. Because it's, the dialogue and some of the things that happen and some of the sound effects. Oh my gosh, there's sound effects in that show that I probably heard in like 10 cartoons that I watch, from the beams and the explosions and the punches and everything. And it was fun. It's such a fun show, especially for its time. I mean, you have to be ready for the fact this is a 1979 animated show. But it is cool because, this was something that was kind of a unique way to go for Marvel, because you think about today how they look back on Marvel Studios and go, wow, that was really risky to not only go with Robert Downey Jr. at the time to launch everything, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know who Iron Man is or don't know who Tony Stark is. They're going to launch this thing led by Iron Man, somebody that, the mainstream public that didn't read comic books isn't going to know. And here's Spider-Woman, and you have to figure that if you didn't read comics back then, this is how you're getting introduced to Spider-Woman. And I think that was one of the reasons why maybe in that first episode they had Spider-Man, as well, and it was voiced by the same guy that was doing Spider-Man at the time. And then it just kind of allows you to kind of prep for what you're going to get from her, how she's different and how she's the same, and off it goes. One of the things that I thought was kind of fun about the show is there are elements of it, and I say this in a good way, that remind me of the 1966 Batman series, because
absolutely
one of the cool things about the Batman series was that guy had a bat something for everything, and in this show Spider-Woman has a spider something for everything. There's spider telepathy, there's the venom blast, there is spider senses. At one point in time, the room filled with gas, and she used spider breath to get out of there.
No, it was because her breath was shallow. It's not just spider breath.
But I think
you
that's
can't just oversimplify.
But I think that's what she said, though, Regina. She said,
she
thank
talked
goodness.
about it being shallow.
I
Her
know.
shallow spider breath.
There is a plethora of abilities, isn't there, though, as compared to what she has in the comics?
Yeah, it's a little bit more elaborate in the show. And I think, there's definitely some of the superhuman durability and strength that she has, and some of the sort of weird bioelectric stuff that she's got going on. That's all things that are translated from the comics. So while some people may watch Spider-Woman and be like, well, she's really different from Spider-Man, she really is very different from Spider-Man, because it wasn't, the radioactive spider biting her that turned her into Spider-Woman. She was given a spider serum that gave her superhuman powers. So that comes with a whole bunch of other wacky stuff.
Yeah.
And for them to add, these things in the show, it completely makes sense. Even with the way she is in the comics, it just makes it really fun and exciting. And with the types of villains that they put her up against in this show, for God's sake, she goes up against Dormammu in the second episode. She needs to have a little bit more of a wacky arsenal, especially with the type of, sort of out there 1966 Batman style wackiness we're seeing in this show. So I think it's totally acceptable. And, speaking of Dormammu, so my favorite comic book character is Doctor Strange. And my first sort of dive into the realm of darkness and Dormammu was actually from Spider-Woman. It was when I read a Doctor Strange comic where he encountered Dormammu, and I was like, holy cow, that's the guy that Spider-Woman fought. So if you watch Spider-Woman, you're gonna get a lot of other really cool characters.
Yeah, I think in the 5th episode she goes against Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin strikes again.
Yeah. Nathan, what did you think? You had a chance to dive back into some.
Yeah, it's I think very much a product of its times, in that there's a healthy dose of chauvinism in there. There's, the weak, frail Jessica Drew, and don't worry, Jess, I'll save you. It's me, Macho Jeff Hunt. I've got this covered. And then all of a sudden she does something like, oh, I just fell out this helicopter. Oh, I fell in the cargo hold. And the next thing you know, she does her, like you say, it's got the Batman 66 going thing for it. It's also got the, your Wonder Woman, because it's got the, spinning around to put the costume on.
Yep.
And then she's going to go out and use some power, like her, as somebody might once have an anti-bat Barracuda repellent spray or something like that in their Batcopter. It's the same deal with her. She's got her super Spidey thing, and she's gonna go and save the day with her feminine wiles and some powers you never knew she had. And you've got a few recycled sound effects, and little Billy's like, oh, Aunt Jess, you missed just his best thing. And she's like, oh, I did. Oh, never mind. And then Jeff ends up looking like a clown again. I liked it. It was everything childhood cartoons I think are supposed to be. It's cool that these days, you'd protect heroes or villains. You wouldn't let people be in certain things. And I think, Marvel TV and Marvel Studios have had that sort of back and forth with each other over the ages. Obviously, back then, the people who made that, the producers, Marvel were just like, no, use what you want. It's cool. Dormammu, got it. Dracula, fine. Kingpin, yep. Spider Queen, more, and they were just like chucking stuff at the wall, and it's really, really kind of kitsch If you like any of those Filmation things from back in the day, you're gonna like it, and it's just it's an enjoyable, I guess, trip down memory lane is what it is. You wouldn't tolerate some of that stuff these days, but it is a product of its times, and it's a nice little kind of refresher in a way to kind of sit back and watch a few episodes of that and see where everything was and where it's gone.
Yeah, it did strike me that very thing a few times because, and I found myself wondering, is this a product of the times, or is this trying to balance the whole, maybe a mentality that thought they needed to have a little bit of both back and forth regarding the male-female thing? Because very early on, the idea is Jessica Drew is supposed to, she wants to be just like this, girly woman who's, wouldn't put herself in front of, anything with bravery. But Spider-Woman, on the other hand, is very different from Jessica. And there seems to be a frequent theme of that. And I know part of that is because she's trying to, differentiate herself. I mean, Clark Kent did the same thing, even in the original Superman movies. He tried to be kind of this clumsy guy, who could never be Superman. But it was just interesting at times because there would be, Jessica would say something like, well, women can be brave. And then within moments of saying that, a spider crawls up her leg. She's like, oh, Jeff, kill it. Or she'll go, we can be as strong as men. And she goes, oh, Jeff, I'm so sorry. Could you open this box for me? It's almost like she can make the statement, but then the joke right after that has to be, oh, well, except in this case. And I couldn't tell sometimes, and I'm one of these people that doesn't overanalyze these things, but when you think about, like you said, the times and how people might react today, I wondered if that was more of a sign of the times or if it really was a balance where she was trying to stand up for strong women, but also trying not to do it so much where she can keep everybody thinking she wouldn't be this heroic person like Spider-Woman can be.
I think you probably hit the nail on the head there. Mm-hmm. There's only so much of that I think people might tolerate. And I hate to say that, but I know without trashing my mum and dad too much, people have sort of, they're stuck in their ways, right? And people used to think a different way back when. Although we view a lot of our insight here, when we talk about heroes, for example, through the insight of like comics, where you have like Black Panther being written by, Stan Lee as a reaction to, lack of diversity and empowerment in comics. I mean, good Lord, even like Captain America slapping around Hitler on the cover of the first Captain America. There's always been comics have always been used to sort of discuss politics, and I don't know that the rest of the world really had that. And certainly they might be a little bit more sort of, if it's talking about my parents' generation, a bit more sort of like as I say, stuck in their ways, not quite forward thinking. Housewife does her thing, bloke goes off to work, and all of that. Certainly from my understanding. So perhaps it's just like that proto-feminism, just like a little bit more palatable. I mean, it's something that I feel comfortable having my kids watch.
Yeah. I mean, having said all that, I mean, Spider-Woman is definitely a really cool hero in the story. Joan Van Ark, perfect voice for it. She's got a little bit of everything. She's got that strength and that badassery. And then in typical comic / early cartoon fashion, there's all those little funny, cheesy one-liners. In fact, I was looking at someone on Twitter today who said, if you need a reason to watch the old Spider-Woman, look at this. And it shows Jeff hanging from a curtain, and Spider-Woman walks up, looks down, and says, it looks like it's curtains for Jeff.
Zing.
There's tons of really cool stuff like that. Along with the other thing that I think really stands out about how cool Spider-Woman is I think she's got one of the coolest costumes of really any hero out there.
Oh, definitely. That look and that design, it's so sleek. And so, I mean, it genuinely also protects her identity.
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
I just say that, because with, Clark Kent and the Spider-Man thing being basically a suit and a pair of glasses, I'll suspend my disbelief. But Spider-Woman's costume genuinely hides her identity.
Yep.
It genuinely comes in handy. She can move around in it. It looks amazing. I think you've absolutely nailed it.
Well, long before Marvel was a big hit on the big screen like it is today, fans watched animated versions of their heroes on the small screen. In 1979, Spider-Woman became the first female hero from Marvel to appear in her very own series. And Joan Van Ark was the voice of Jessica Drew and Spider-Woman for all 16 episodes. Before getting the role, Joan had appeared on several TV shows and movies over the last 12 years. Many TV fans know her from her reoccurring role in iconic TV shows like Dallas and Knots Landing. But the truth is, Joan has an impressive career that spans everything from film, TV, voiceover, as well as performing on stage, where she was also nominated for a Tony Award. Her recent work includes voicing a Brooklyn mom in the Doom Patrol series. She was also in the Lifetime movie The Wedding Stalker with Heather Morris, and in 2016 she played Lady Macbeth at the Annenberg Theater in Beverly Hills. Today, we are thrilled she is playing the role of guest on the Disney Plus Streamcast so that we can talk to her about Spider-Woman. Hello, Joan. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, I'm thrilled and honored to be a part of it. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, we're thrilled to have you because it's exciting to get a chance to talk about an iconic character that made an appearance on TV as Marvel's first on-screen animated female character. And I bet just a few months ago, or maybe a year or so ago, before Disney Plus even came out, it would have been kind of hard to imagine that you'd be talking about the Spider-Woman series today, thanks to streaming services.
Well, yes, but also what you say, was she the first female heroine, if you will? Was she the first?
For Marvel,
For the Marvel franchise?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm liking that a lot.
Yeah.
I think I need to redo the resume here and billboard that.
I think so.
Yeah, strong women now, and she's based on this new Avengers Spider-Woman little sort of doll that I have in front of me right now that a fan sent to me. She's very current and on trend because that's what it's all about right now. You go, girls. That kind of thing. So I'm more proud, though, to hear that statistic that she was like the first Marvel character, because they're hotter than you-know-what. As hot as Disney Plus, I might add.
Well, and I'd like to throw in Regina and Nathan if they have any thoughts on this, too, because to what you're saying as far as how some things have changed over the years is, one of the things I notice about Spider-Woman in the animated series, while she definitely has a lot of badass qualities and lots of powers and she's strong-willed, there are times where she gets quickly overpowered, at least physically at times. People pick her up and put her in a cell or something. And it seems like, Regina, that over the years, as the way that people write and develop stories around female characters, that's something that just doesn't happen that easily anymore.
No, it definitely takes a lot more to sort of put baby in a corner. I think that it's something that the way that it's gone from it being something that happens a lot to the way it is now is sort of a development that we needed to see. And it's a development that Spider-Woman perfectly encapsulates because she always ends up being the one that saves the day, even when everyone thinks, she's sort of just Jessica Drew. She just happens to be there. Where did she go to change into her, costume this time? She's doing all of this stuff in the background that people don't even realize that ends up solving the problem on her own. And I think it's just fantastic. She's perfect for today's culture.
That's what I was just going to say. She was like a front runner because, and maybe before her time, voicing and throwing out that quality and that being able to handle it all, even though sometimes she's overpowered, she, in the end, will win, will be the one. And you know what? I'm loving the badass part. My favorite person right now is Billie Eilish. Mm-hmm. And oh, my God, I love her. I love her uniqueness. I love her youth, and with her brother and the whole nine yards. And there are new definitions now for woman and for female, and that's wonderful. And Jessica was, in a way, a forerunner that is now very on trend and current.
Yeah, and I think being able to have a streaming service that can allow us to appreciate the long history of these characters appearing on television is one of, obviously one of the advantages of having like a Disney Plus. You could say the same things about getting to see some of the classic Disney cartoons that you otherwise might not be able to see today, or some of the films that used to be in the vault. So were you excited to learn that people were going to get a chance to watch this series on Disney Plus, perhaps some people that had never had a chance to watch it before?
Oh, my God, Thanksgiving. I hope people were home getting over their tryptophan coma, and we're watching, continuous binging on Spider-Woman. Yeah. I know Disney Plus is hot right now because I see it and see things written about it, and I think my daughter, Vanessa Marshall, has done some things or is working with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so. And they're hot, as is, well, Marvel's beyond hot. They're into another stratosphere.
Hi, Joan. Big fan. Really glad to be talking with you today. Um, traditionally, I guess you got your start on the stage and you've done TV. How did you get into voice acting? How did you get to be Spider-Woman?
Well, Spider-Woman, that's a whole different story. Getting into voiceovers is kind of funny. I was doing a show on Broadway. It might have been one of my first ones, which would be Barefoot in the Park, which was directed by Mike Nichols. And it was, an amazing compliment to have this man, Mike Nichols, the iconic, unbelievable director, be one of my first directors. But bottom line is I was doing that show on Broadway, or one of my early Broadway efforts, and Faye Dunaway's manager, Cy Maslow was his name. I don't believe he's still with us. However, he heard my voice, which was a little more husky than my voice is now. And he said, you should be doing voiceovers. And bottom line is that long story short, I went and auditioned and got the first voiceover that I tried out for. I don't even have any idea what it was, but I started early on in my early 20s, 19, 20, 21, doing voiceovers, and I've just done them all along. And the current agency that I'm with, CESD, which is Vanessa's agency also, sent me on, all kinds of auditions. But I think actually Spider-Woman may have come directly to me saying, would you like to do it? I was knee-deep in Knots Landing and Valine Ewan, who was from Dallas, Texas, y'all.
Yes.
And so I was doing that. I was doing Spider-Woman, and I was always also doing all of Estee Lauder's voiceovers for all their commercials that they showed on television with film and also on the radio. So I would spend 2 solid days in a studio right near the Plaza Hotel where they put me up in New York City. And I would do nothing but the 30s and the 60-minute spots for Estee Lauder Cosmetics. And so I was spinning like 3 plates at the same time.
Wow.
So Spider-Woman was just part of my energy and efforts at that time.
So when you were recording Spider-Woman, were they giving you a lot of direction, or were they just sort of telling you to sound like, this really incredibly confident badass?
Oh, I love that, because that's Billie Eilish time. I'm loving that. Badass is good. It was a collaboration, it seemed, because what I really wanted to find was a genuine voice for her when she was Jessica one way, and when she became and was Spider-Woman, something that had more teeth, that had more, I don't want to say balls, that doesn't work, but maybe it does. Maybe it does. But I wanted her to have legs, to have, a sound to her that was stronger and authentic, to go against the sound when she was Jessica Drew.
Oh, and it shows through so well. It just channels and emanates through Jessica Drew and Spider-Woman.
But that's what I wanted, and it's sort of like Superman, Clark Kent and then Superman. It has to be subtle, but it has to definitely be there, and you definitely want to make it as, I want to say, seamless and rich in both characters, in both sounds. You don't want to be doing a cartoon. You want it right.
It's funny that you bring up Superman, because I thought of Superman a lot while watching this series, mainly for one reason, because Jessica had to be so creative about, she was always hanging around these 2 other characters, and she always had to come up with a way to get away from them so she could turn into Spider-Woman. And sometimes, you're, it's kind of like the whole Superman, can you believe that it's not really the same guy just by him taking his glasses off? But I mean, there were so many kind of fun and creative ways they did it. I mean, I watched one earlier where they were trying to get away from these alien pyramids, and she literally was on the pyramid and they were making their escape, but she had to turn into Spider-Woman, and she goes, okay, I'll be right back, I left my purse.
Oh, that's girly time. Well, but see, that's when I say collaboration too. As an actress, I love when they help you, the script or the visual or whatever. It helps put both the viewer and the actor trying to deliver in a zip code, in a space where you can make it as real and as rich as you possibly can. But as I recall, it was definitely a collaboration where, of course, there was direction, but that I was very intent on giving her 2 different sounds and not being over the top.
Oh no, you did a great job, Joan. It was so awesome to go back and revisit that series after watching it in my youth. Whenever you were in the booth doing Spider-Woman, obviously that was working for DePatie Frilling, and who were really big in animation at the time. What were your experiences like working with them? How did they treat you, and was it different to what you had experienced before with voiceovers? I'm just a big animation fan, and so I was just wondering if you had any stories from working with them.
Well, I'll tell you what comes to the fore when you ask that question is that because I was so busy doing, on-camera television, a series is long, long, long hours and, a big output of both energy and creativity, all of it. So they were very accommodating, and if I was having to go to New York to do Estee Lauder, they were wonderful in helping me be my best me, given what was going on. And so production-wise, I loved it. And, of course, as an actress, I love direction because it guides me and it challenges me to try to go and please them, if you will, as long as I, thought that it was accurate. So they, production-wise, did an amazing job. And I'm trying to figure, I think many times it was different places because of where I happened to be. And so we would sometimes have to do it like we're doing this interview and have it sort of like a conference call almost to set that up. So all of it was positive, and there's a lot of positivity about it. And collaboration, again, I keep using that word, but that isn't always true in a creative effort because sometimes it's my way or the highway from production. And they were wonderful, and it seemed like we created something on as we went and on the go, which is really the best and most fulfilling effort that an actor at least can have.
I just love all of the care and attention that you put into these characters. Was there anything in particular about the work that you did as Spider-Woman that you ended up carrying over into your other voiceover jobs?
I don't think so, because it was so specific to me, the need for the two authentic sounds and the two authentic. This wasn't complex, but it was layered. And so anything else that I've done animation-wise was always one character. I did Santa Bugito, I think it was Klausky Kupo, and she was a dragonfly. And it was something, much more. I have to, I know a sound. If I read a piece of copy and I see what I want to do with it, I hear it right away in my mind. So that way, with her, she was very specific. So I didn't carry her or any of her strength and versatility, if you will. I didn't carry that over to any other specific animation that I can think of.
Well, you've continued to work on a lot of great projects over the years. We've talked about some of those today outside of Spider-Woman, and you brought up Vanessa Marshall, your daughter, who's also well known for her voiceover work. What have you noticed about the voiceover industry as far as how it's changed over the years, not only with your involvement, but also seeing Vanessa involved in it as well? I mean, obviously, a lot's changed. A lot stayed the same, but it's definitely evolved, especially with so many different things that require voiceover now.
That a ton. I mean, it's become, as important to a career and to an actor, to a career, period, because everybody's doing it, and you're invited in to be part of the group, and everybody's a part of it. I mean, it's now for Vanessa, she has to do hair and makeup and put it together, where I would always joke I would do Estee Lauder, which is not animation, but I would do Estee Lauder could do it in my pajamas. I used to dress for that. No, but I used to dress for it because it was such a high-end Estee Lauder lips, Estee Lauder eyes. You had to have that, what I call perfume voice. But in animation now and in voiceover work, to answer your question, it's much more, like you're doing it in your closet, and it's got to be just very real and kind of low-key and don't push. It's sort of a little bit more Matthew McConaughey almost. It's just really real. Everything, both animation thing, they choose an actor or an actress to sound like they sound because they really want it authentic and not in any way cartoony, where it used to be a lot of have fun, over the top, more of a character. And it's less character, it seems to me, and more real, way more real. And I have trouble turning the dial because I went to the Yale School of Drama, only stayed there a year because I immediately got a job and never looked back.
Yeah.
And that's quickly how I was working with Mike Nichols. But I went from one thing to the next at Mach speed. So it was 1 year at the Yale Drama School, but you were taught there basically to be, I forget, it's so wrong now, but to be perfect. And now it's not about perfect. It's about real and sound like a real person. Don't push, don't be precise, don't put T's on the end of it, or, it's just a little sloppier and it's a little bit, I don't know, just, I'm just telling you stuff. What do you want? And I sound like the Brooklyn character I did in Doom Patrol. I did a book. Come here. Can you order some stuff from them? Call Rite Aid, call somewhere. I need to have some breakfast. Hurry up. What are you doing? That's
Miss Franklin.
But it's I love doing that kind of stuff, but it's not as prevalent now as just what I call farting and belching, which is just be real. And I just always want to be perfect. No, I know farting and belching gets down to the nitty gritty for sure. There's
a whole
no
other comfort zone.
That's it. No facade whatsoever, and that's hard on me because I always try to be so perfect, and that's a big adjustment, I have to say, for sure. Vanessa can do this too, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
She does a lot of different voices, and that's her forte, along with her very elegant. She did something for a product called Propel Fitness Water, I think is what it was called. That should go in the time capsule forever. It was flawless, clean, pure, amazing. Knocked it beyond out of the park with that. But that's her forte, is to be so many different sounds and voices.
That's definitely true, because I've been a fan of a lot of things that she's done as well. And you're right that she's got kind of this natural knack to flip it another gear and kind of adjust things for what's needed. Because I was just at Galaxy's Edge in Anaheim at Disney, and she's the voice inside the Millennium Falcon after you've run your mission. And
yes. Yeah, she has done so many voices, so many sounds, and I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, I was going to ask, while we're talking about performance, did you get a chance to watch Spider-Woman after it originally aired? And if you did, what did you think of it?
No, I didn't. In fact, I don't watch a lot or listen, although I do want to hear Doom Patrol. I want to hear about that woman who was saying, she needed some cola or something right now. I really would like to hear the Doom Patrol character, but I don't believe I ever saw anything. It might have been a commercial or a little snippet of it, but I haven't. And now with Disney Plus, maybe I better hook up and shut up and listen and see what I did there.
I know that we don't have to ask you if you're a fan of Spider-Woman, but are there any other heroes floating around right now that you would say are your favorites these days?
Well, you know what? I applaud Spider-Woman, especially now. I mean, though I haven't seen every episode, or maybe nothing but a quick commercial or something like that, I love it when there are women and characters in animation and live action and all of it that are layered, who aren't blanketly one note, who have strength and power when needed. And you tell me that's what you saw and see in Spider-Woman, and I'm grateful. I love that. I'm proud that was part of the impact or message of that effort. But there's so many characters coming out now. Scarlett Johansson has a kind of magnificent, there's a femininity, but it doesn't get butch, forgive me. It's just tough and interesting. And as I've said now ad nauseum, Billie Eilish is representing a new femininity, as Lady Gaga did. And I bet Lady Gaga's looking over her shoulder right now, because I think Billie will become an actress just as Lady Gaga did, Lady Gaga started in singing. And I love to see, how do I put it, an attractive, or, because sexy's, relative, and I just mean a strong, handsome-looking woman who knows who she is and knows what she wants and uses many layers, which is as part of being a woman, to achieve that goal. And when I see those kind of characters, and that's why Scarlett Johansson kind of comes to mind, and who's the one on Saturday Night Live that I'm always seeing that just, She does everything. Oh, you God! And I saw her just last night, but she's blonde and she's doing and I'm going.
Oh, it was
Kate
right up.
McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kate McKinnon. Whoa! I mean, she's a rainbow of femininity, and she does all of them and all of it, and she's quite stunning. So there are lots of women out there now, and actresses now. When Spider-Woman was on, maybe not so much, but maybe we all knew something way back then and we were just a little ahead of it timing-wise. But I'm proud of it, and to hear what you all say makes me even more proud.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, we love what you did, and we were so excited about the opportunity to get to talk to you about it today. We've been looking forward to it all week, and I'm so glad we got a chance to cover so many things even beyond the character today. But before we go, I just wanted to ask you if there was anything that you were working on outside, of course, the reunion. I did have a chance to see some of those great photos you took that hit social media with some of your fellow cast members from Knots Landing that you're still very close with. Are there other things coming up that you want people to know about or look out for that you're involved in?
Well, I will say, with what you've seen just recently, currently, Donna Mills and Michelle Lee and I have been working for about a year and a half on the nucleus of it is we're not KNOT done yet. And the three of us, maybe we're the bronze girls. I don't know if we're golden yet, but we're getting so close it's scary. But the three of us initially started out as a reality show, but perhaps now we're getting into scripted, where the three of us are doing something totally unexpected. We even thought First Wives Club, but now they've already done a spin-off of that.
Yeah.
With three African American actresses, which is bravo and fantastic. But I think there's something out there that Joan, Donna, and Michelle can do to prove that it ain't over until the fat lady sings, and we're still ready. We're still singing, and we're still ready to sing some more. And there has to be a product or a project out there, and we are currently working on something in that vein and doing pitch meetings and trying to put that together.
That's awesome. So in other words, the woman in that Spider-Woman costume hasn't lost that badass, heroic, I'm not done yet mentality as of today.
She lives forever. Would that I were built like what I'm looking at here in this box. Would that I were built that way. I'm a 10 to 12 mile runner a day person, so I'm a little more slender than that, but I'm not done yet, and stay tuned. Film at 11.
All right, we'll look for it.
All three of you, thank you so much, and thank you for the nice things that you've said. I so appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate you, Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
You bet.
Happy holidays from Spider-Woman and Joan Van Ark.
Happy holidays right back to you both.
Okay. All right. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Well, that was a lot of fun. Don't you all think? That was awesome.
That was so fun. She's so peppy. I love her so much.
I know, right?
I can't believe her energy. And I mean, what'd she say? Like she runs like 12 miles in a day or something.
Yeah.
I don't think
That
I've run
was
12 miles in my life.
I pat myself on the back sometimes if I walk 12 steps.
Like,
Yes.
I don't run for the bus when I'm running late, like I just miss the bus. It's fine. But she's out there running laps. I can't believe it. That's fantastic.
That was one of my favorite interviews we've done to date.
Absolutely. We're so glad that Joan could join us today to talk about Spider-Woman and all the other great things she has going. I mean, it's one thing to be able to talk about something cool you did back then, but also the cool stuff you're doing now. So what a great opportunity, and we want to thank her again for coming on the show today. And that's going to wrap up our show for today. But we do have one more show to send your way before the holiday break.
Next week, we'll be talking about some holiday programming, and the gauntlet will be thrown as we discuss the Disney Plus original film, Noel.
Indeed.
I can't wait.
If you've been listening to the show since the beginning, you know there's already been some talk about that, but we're also hoping to fit in some other Christmas content that we're going to try to watch over the next week. Maybe that's Miracle on 34th Street. Maybe that's Mickey's Christmas Carol. There's a number of holiday-themed programs on Disney Plus, so we hope to bring you a good discussion about holiday Disney Plus, but especially Noel.
In the meantime, we'd love to have you connect with us on Twitter at Disney Plus Cast. And if you would like to share some of your favorite holiday movies or shows on Disney Plus, contact us through our website at DisneyPlusDreamcast.com.
Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to talking with you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
entertainment, adventure, and magic on Disney Plus never stops. So join us for the next episode of the Disney Plus Streamcast. You can subscribe to the show on podcast providers like iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Search, stream, or download any episode on our website. While you're there, get news updates, watch videos, follow us on social media, and check out the Streamcast Spotlight. Just go to DisneyPlusStreamcast.com. Thank you for listening.